Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Liverpool transfer show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. Now, it looks like shit just got real tonight. The shackles are off, and Isak has finally spoken. So it's only right that I read out the statement exactly how it was presented online. I'm going to do it with some pleasure as well. So let's bring the quote on right now. So that's Isak there. Of course, it's not his real appearance there. He didn't make the PFA awards today, but this was his statement. So, quote unquote, I'm proud to be recognized by my fellow professionals with a place in the PFA Premier League Team of the Season for 2024/2025. First and foremost, I want to thank my teammates and everyone at Newcastle United who has supported me along the way. I am not at the ceremony tonight with everything going on. It didn't feel right to be there. I've kept quiet for a long time while others have spoken. That silence has allowed people to push their own version of events, even though they know it doesn't reflect what was really said and agreed behind closed doors. The reality is that promises were made, and the club has known my position for a long time. To now act as if these issues are only emerging is misleading. When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. That's where things are for me right now, and why change is in the best interest of everyone, not just myself, Alexander Isak. Now, very loud and clear in terms of what he has said there. And it's pretty much something we've discussed on the shows in previous weeks because it's quite obvious in terms of why he's behaving the way he is. People think, he's just being, a bit of a nuisance by, going AWOL and not doing things that he's been told to in terms of turning up for training stuff because he's got an attitude or he's unprofessional. I always thought with him that if he's acting in this way, it's because something was promised behind the scenes. Just like Harry Kane had that gentleman's agreement to make the move whenever a bid was placed for him. It's a similar scenario here where Alexander Isak was probably, given some assurances that if a bid was placed for the striker, then they will definitely, look into the deal and try and get the deal to facilitate the transfer in the end. But that hasn't been the case, and that's why he's acted or he's behaved the way he has. Now, in terms of the statement, that sounds like Isak has just slammed the door on Newcastle. End of the chapter. No more sequels after this. He's ready to start fresh and become a star at the Red Fortress, which is better known as Anfield. Now, Newcastle fans have been saying that this is the end game. Well, you damn right it is. No more foolish games because Newcastle have been holding on to their life, thinking they can let the clock tick and let the time go on before you know it the window's closed and Isak's still a Newcastle player. Well, let's burst that bubble because that's not how it's going to play out. For me, Isak will be leaving Liverpool and he will be joining. He will be leaving Newcastle and he'll be joining Liverpool very soon. Now, in terms of Newcastle fans, they've been quick to insult us and Isak in regards to the whole situation. But if you look at the current situation with one of their prime target in Johan Wissa, he's doing the exact same thing, maybe even a little worse. So I don't want to hear Newcastle fans saying anything about that. They're not saying, oh, he's doing anything wrong or anything to that nature. All I'm hearing is cricket. So that shows, little, fans can be hypocrites in these kind of scenarios. But I do want to raise a question for everyone in the chat. And let's be honest, the current situation is that Isak has revealed his card. He wants to leave Newcastle. And, let's be honest, Richard Hughes is probably putting the rubber bands around the stacks of money to place into his briefcase because, Liverpool are ready to do business now. But the big question is, how much do we need to take in order to place that offer officially on the table? Newcastle will want around £150 million, which is never going to happen in a million years. I think that's a very far-fetched amount that they're requesting for, so they can keep on dreaming. For me, this statement feels a little bit stronger in terms of the stance in comparison to handing in a formal transfer request because it's been made so public now. So why don't Liverpool take advantage of this situation? And do we not have the upper hand on this deal? I think we do. Isak has revealed his card. He clearly wants out. So let me know in the chat how much do you think Liverpool should place in terms of the opening bid? Now, some would say, we could be a little bit cheeky and place a bid of like 90 million pounds or 100 million pounds because we're in the driving seat, and Isak has made it very clear that he only wants to join Liverpool. To some extent, I kind of agree why people would think like that, but at the same time, it's very, very late in the transfer window. We're running out of time, and I feel like Liverpool need to try and place an offer that will pretty much satisfy everyone in terms of all the parties involved, and we can get a deal done very swiftly over the line. So for me, I believe the club should place a bid no more than 120 million pounds, and that includes add-ons. With that, you've got a bid that officially breaks the British transfer record. Newcastle will probably get a large chunk of that money up front so they can go and invest into their squad. So everyone should be happy in that scenario. Now, I've been saying this for a couple of weeks. Liverpool, for me, need to be a bit more aggressive now and place that bid as soon as possible. We can't wait for Newcastle to secure a replacement because let's be honest, we'll be waiting forever for that to happen. So Liverpool need to stop playing the Mr. Nice Guy role because let's be honest, everyone's calling us the big bully in terms of the current situation, and they're making it appear that we're the one that are unsettling Newcastle, or we're the one that's telling Isak to do all of these things. It's none of those above. So in this situation, Newcastle have been playing a victim, and everyone seems to have fallen for it. Now that we know what's real and what's not, Liverpool should shift their stance and be a bit more aggressive in placing that opening offer and get that deal over the line. So the big question is, will it happen? Will Isak make the move to Liverpool? For me, 100%. My stance has not changed since the start of this summer window, and I believe that Isak will be our number 9 very, very soon. So yeah, let me know what you think in terms of the latest update. It feels like a bit of a bomber because the statement kind of came out of nowhere. Are you confident that Liverpool will sign Isak, or do you think this saga has not ended and he will remain as a Newcastle player? Feel free to let me know in the chat. But before we move on, huge shout out to the Egyptian King, Mohamed Salah, who was crowned PFA Player of the Year tonight. He is the first player to win the individual trophy 3 times, and he beats the likes of Thierry Henry, Cristiano Ronaldo, Kevin De Bruyne, and Alan Shearer, who have won it twice in their careers. So another record broken and more to follow, inshallah, for Mohamed Salah. But also, shout out to Van Dijk, Kirkez, Gravenberch, McAllister, Salah, and Future Red in Alexander Isak for being named in the PFA Team of the Year. It's a beautiful sight to see, these players getting their individual accolades. So the future is bright, the future is clearly red. Now, on to the next rumor, and that is regarding Marc Guehi. Another transfer saga this summer, but the current development is that Liverpool are hoping to secure the signing of Marc Guehi as early as this week. Liverpool were initially hoping to pay around £30 million. A fee closer to 40 million in total is expected with add-ons. So my thoughts on that, no huge surprise. I've been saying it for quite some time now that I don't think it will be anything of the region of 30 million pounds. I think that's way too low, and I'm quite surprised that Liverpool went with that initial offer, or that is their sort of price range for signing Marc Guehi. I always thought it was going to be 35 million to 40 million, in that kind of region, and I think that's what's going to end up happening in the end. I think we'll place an offer of 35 million plus add-ons that equal to 40 million. So a total deal of 40 million should be enough to secure the signature of Marc Guehi. Interestingly, in Crystal Palace's last fixture against Chelsea, he was called or shouted by Glasner to come over and give their high fives or whatnot after the game. but he went straight through the changing rooms. So a lot of fans were suggesting that maybe there's a bit of an issue between the coach and the player. I think we were probably reading into it a bit too much. I don't think there was nothing to that nature. But what I do know is that Marc Guehi certainly favours a move to Liverpool. There's been interest from the likes of Chelsea, Newcastle, and Tottenham reportedly made an offer or tried to discuss some sort of terms with the player to see, if he could be swayed to join the North London side. But the message has been clear, like it has been for all our signings this summer. It's always been Liverpool. So that is the stance. It's always Liverpool for Mark Guehi, and hopefully we can get the defender through the line because his addition to the squad is what we need right now. We've got decent numbers in our defense. So we've got the likes of Van Dijk, Konate. We've signed Giovanni Leone, who's of course a future star in the making, but maybe it's too soon to blood him into the first team right away. We've got Joe Gomez, who's just returned to the first team, but of course his injury history is questionable, so we can't rely on him to be one of our first four choice centre backs. Um, so for me, signing Gay, that's five centre backs there, plus Endo and Robertson could be makeshifts, if required. So I feel like that would be the perfect blend in terms of the centre backs that we would have in our squad. Everyone will, I think, will be able to play alongside each other. I think it's a good blend of youth and experience in the squad. So yeah, I'm really, really hoping we get Mark Gay, and I just feel like he gives us a lot more assurance in the back line, but also just to think about other roles in the team. Mark Gay can actually cover defensive midfield if required as well. So if that's a role where we feel like we're lacking a defensive minded player in the midfield, he can play in that role on occasions as well. So I think this still has to be done. I'm pretty confident it will be done. If I was to make a prediction, I think we'll get some sort of announcement early next week. That would be my prediction. The Isak one, I think we'll get some sort of news of an official approach this week. But in terms of the conclusion, I think maybe next week or just before deadline day, unfortunately, because I'm looking at the date now. We don't have too much time. So I would say late next week is when we find out if Isak is going to join Liverpool. So yeah, fingers crossed. We can get both players on the line. Now whether we sign a third player remains to be seen. I still feel like an attacker would make a lot of sense for us to add to our squad. But if it's Mark Gay and Isak, I'll be honest with you, I will be content with that. I think we've got enough numbers to cover plenty of positions. So I think going forward, it would be more or less a complete squad, in my opinion. But only time will tell. Hopefully, we'll get some official news in the coming days. Now, on to some official news, and that is regarding Ben Doak, who has completed his move to Bournemouth for a region of £25 million. But from a Liverpool's point of view, Liverpool have inserted a buyback option. So my thoughts on the deal, I think it's a great deal for all parties, to be honest with you. It's a great deal for Ben Doak because he moves over to a club where he should be in the first team, in my opinion. They've just sold Otara to Brentford, so there's clearly a vacant space in the attacking positions there. So he'll be playing under a very interesting coach in Iraola, who has really cemented his sort of philosophy at the club, and you can see, they've got an identity. They play very good attacking football, very, very, difficult team to come up against. I know we beat them 4-2 last weekend, but generally speaking, they're always a tough opponents, in my opinion. So I think it would be a good signing for Bournemouth in terms of having that Otara replacement in Ben Doak. And of course, it might have an effect going forward because with Ben Doak joining Bournemouth, you've got Otara practically leaving what he's left now, and he's officially signed for Brentford. So with Brentford, trying to sell Wissa, they'll have the finances to try and get someone else in the end as well. And hopefully Liverpool can get Isak because Wissa would be Isak's replacement in Newcastle. So a bit of a slight domino effect if all of those moves happening, but for me, it's the most important thing is that Liverpool get the players that they want, and I'm pleased, with for Ben Dodd because I feel like he'll get to play for a good club, and I think he'll be able to play first team football. And look, the buyback clause is an interesting one because if he lives up to the potential that Liverpool first, initially thought when we signed him 2, 3 years ago, then we have the option to bring him back to the club. So it's a win-win situation. £25 million. A lot of rival fans are bemused in terms of how we got that fee. But of course, little do they know, Liverpool know how to do business. We're very smart and very sort of ahead of the curve when it comes to investing in young players and then selling them on for bigger transfer fees. So no surprise from our part. And also, he had a fantastic loan spell for Middlesbrough last season in the Championship, and I believe he rejected a bit of around £20 million from Palace in January as well. So there's always interest in the player. I believe Bournemouth were one of many clubs that were trying to secure his signature. But overall, I think it's a good move for Ben Doak. It's a good signing for Bournemouth. And from a business point of view, it's a great deal for Liverpool. We get 25 million in the bank, and that should allow us to invest into the squad as well. So yeah, everyone should be happy. So I think it's a good move all round. Now, in terms of developments in our own squad, Federico Chiesa, who scored a fantastic goal against Bournemouth last Friday, has confirmed that uh, he would like to stay at Liverpool. So that is his stance right now. He has presented a clear desire to remain at the club and fight for his players. So my thoughts on this news: I'm very pleased about Chiesa staying. I've been his fan for quite some time, and I felt like it would have been too soon for him to leave after one season at the club. He's you know he had quite a few injuries last year. I think he got ill as well. I think he had COVID or something along those lines. So of course he was out of the picture for some time, and it's very hard for a new player to hit the ground running straight away when you're not available, and of course getting used to new way of playing in terms of internally, even from the training field to playing in the Premier League where it's played at a very intense speed, something he's not used to playing, especially coming from Serie A. It's a very physical, very intense uh, league where you have to be aware 100% of the time. You have to be you have to be so focused in your game, and you have to really uh, make sure that you're fit and you're aware of your surroundings and you're playing 100 miles per hour because that's how the game is played in this country. So for me, it's a good sort of news that he is staying at the club for another season at least. I feel like he gives us the experience that we need from an attacking point of view, but also provides cover for the right wing, for the left wing, and even up top as well. The goal he scored on Friday was him playing in the more central role. So he's definitely capable of doing that. If required, he can even play as a number 10. So for me, gives us that versatility that we need. And I do feel like, he's a player that the young players can look up to in the squad as well. So no, I'm very pleased, in terms of this news. And I do also feel like with Chiesa, he can kind of take the role that Dio Jota had in the squad where, we've got someone of real quality who's probably not going to start every game, but you know, a great option to have off the bench where when he comes on, he can play different roles, but his focus will be to try and help the team, try and get the goal. And that's the kind of mentality I saw in that Bournemouth game. So hopefully, we'll be seeing a lot more super sub appearances from Chiesa. At the same time, I think he will have plenty of chances to start for Liverpool this season, whether it's through cup games or a few Premier League fixtures and Champions League fixtures here and there. I do feel like he will be very much a valuable member of the squad, and he won't be such a big part player like he was last season, in my opinion. So it looks like Arne Slot, is in favor of the move, would like him to stay for 1 year. And of course, with so many players departing, the likes of Diaz and Darwin Nunes, and Ben Doak now as well, one of our squad players. We had to try and keep some on board. Harvey Elliott's future is still very unclear, so it looks like he could be departing as well. So with that, you just can't get rid of every player possible just because they're not in the first team. I feel like players like Chiesa will know their role. They will appreciate that they might not be in the team week in week out, but they will definitely be contributing to our game, and they'll be contributing to the success of Liverpool this season, hopefully as well. So I'm very pleased about the signing of Chiesa. So yeah, for me, it's a good moment for Liverpool to keep him for one more season at least. And I believe that he will definitely showcase his talent. So yeah, looking forward to seeing him playing in a Liverpool shirt a lot more, and hopefully scoring some spectacular goals like he did last week. Now, on to the next rumor, and that is regarding Nathan Collins. Now, if for some reason Liverpool are not able to sign Marc Guehi this window, according to rumours, Liverpool could be looking towards Brentford's Nathan Collins as an alternative. So my thoughts on this potential rumor, I do think Nathan Collins is a good defender. From whenever I've seen him play for Brentford, he's very dominant in the air, very assured in his positioning, defensively sound as well. But I don't know if he's the player that we should be after in terms of being a Liverpool caliber player. If he was to join, it'll be third or fourth choice. So it wouldn't be the worst case scenario, but I feel like Gay has a lot more in his game. I feel like he's a better player on the ball, and I feel like he's more versatile. Can play on the left side, can play on the right side of centre back, can play in the back three or in the back four, and can also play in the DM if required. So I think the sole focus needs to be Marc Guehi. In terms of Collins, I think he's a decent player, but I don't think he's the right target for us at this minute. And also, I don't think Brentford will be very keen to sell him anytime soon. They've got quite a few players leaving the club. They've got the likes of Embremo leaving, Wissa could be leaving as well. To let one of their main defenders leave at this stage of the summer window, for me, would not make a lot of sense. So they probably want to keep him on board for at least a few months. But I feel like they'd want to make sure he stays for the rest of the season. And then maybe, if a move is on the table next season or next summer, I should say, then that's something that they can look onto. But for now, I think it probably suits the player and Brentford to, continue their journey right now. And I don't think a move on the cards. A move to Liverpool's on the cards. So yeah, I don't think there's any truth to rumor. If we don't get Mark Gay, which I really hope we do end up signing, but if we don't, I think we'll probably hold out for signing him maybe on a free transfer. I think that's what Liverpool will do. But whether we go for an alternative target remains to be seen. But with so little time, I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. On to the next rumor, and it's regarding Michael Olise. Now, it's just been recently revealed that he has a release clause in his Bayern Munich contract that is active from 2026, making a Premier League return a possibility in the future. The two teams that have been linked to his name are, of course, Liverpool and Man City. So my thoughts on Michael Olise possibly joining Liverpool next summer, I'm all in. That is exactly the player that I want to see in a Liverpool shirt. That's the player that I would put in my number one position to replace Salah as his long-term successor. So I'm all on board to have Isak. Of course, I'm on board to have Isak, but I'm all on board to have Elise in the team as well. And something I mentioned last week, where I thought maybe Liverpool should, try and sign a profile where you've got a left or right winger that can play on the left, so he's covering two positions for this summer, and then it gives Rio the pathway for that left wing, which does sound like a great scenario there. But at the same time, if Elise is the one that they've earmarked as the guy to sign next summer and to replace Salah in the near future, then I'm all in. So for me, if Elise is in the team, it should secure that right wing position for years and years to come. He's only 23. 24 is a very young man. So he's 23 years old. So he'll be 24 end of the year. So, if he was to join next summer, he would join as a 24-year-old. So he's not even hit his prime years at the minute. And from what I've seen in a Bayern Munich shirt, forget Crystal Palace. Because when I saw him at Palace, I've always said this for a number of years. I think he's an unbelievable talent. And when they bought him from Reading, I thought, you know what, it's a smart signing. And his opening season for Palace, I thought, yeah, he looks a very, very talented player. But his quality and his stock has just risen to a great speed, and I feel like he could definitely be one of the best right wingers for years to come. Of course, you've got Lamine Yamal, but I do feel like he wouldn't be too far off. I think they're in that same kind of bracket. I feel like he's a very, very special talent. So for me, Olise would be my number one choice. So let me know what you guys think. Would you be on board to sign Michael Olise next summer? Feel free to let me know in the chat. Now, on to the next rumor, and that is regarding Kostas Tsimikas. Now, the current report is that Liverpool are, or should I say, we are expected to see some sort of acceleration as Liverpool are open to a potential loan deal for Tsimikas. The left back is prepared to leave as Kirkis and Robertson will be the left backs for Arne Slot. Now, my thoughts on this, I'm a little bit surprised that it's a loan move that Liverpool are after because he's not the youngest of players. Let's be honest. I think he's 29 years of age, uh, and I think because of his age group, where he'll be heading into his 30s next year, I don't feel like it's worth having him sort of out on loan and then thinking maybe he could come back next year. Because I do know with Robertson, this is his final season, his current contract. So if he's not offered a new contract, he will be able to leave on a free next summer. I don't know what the club's stance is regarding Robertson, if they want to keep him on board or not. But my inkling would be that one of these players will definitely be leaving at some point. So a loan move surprises me a little bit. I think a permanent move would make the most sense for Simicast, but let's see what happens. Because I do feel like if Robertson decides to leave at the end of the contract, I'm expecting Liverpool to sign a young profile to challenge Kirkes for that left back position rather than having a 30-year-old in Simicast, providing cover. If they value Simicast that highly, why wasn't he kept on board and why wasn't Robertson sold instead? So, not quite sure in terms of the loan move. I think a permanent move makes more sense. But we'll get some clarity. I think there's strong rumors that he'll be leaving very, very soon. So it's just a matter of time of us receiving some official news. And also, we're not quite sure in terms of what his next destination will be. It looks like it could be Nottingham Forest, but there are teams in the Premier League as well as teams across Europe that are interested in his services. So we'll get some clarity, I guess, in the next few days. And the final rumor of today is regarding Ibu Konate. Now, Ibu Konate has apparently been offered a new contract from Liverpool. The player uh, currently earns around 70 to 75 thousand pounds per week, and it believes that Liverpool are willing to double his wages, so he'll be earning around 150k. So Konate is mulling over that offer. But at the same time, it looks like he could be holding up for more. Uh, Liverpool trying to avoid a repeat of the Trent Alexander-Arnold situation. So if there is a chance that, let's say Konate isn't on board and doesn't want to sign a new contract, apparently there's a slim chance that he could be sold before the window shuts if he has not renewed the contract. So my thoughts on this rumor, I don't believe he'll sell Konate. Even if he signs or he doesn't sign this new contract, he's not being sold. I feel like he's too valuable at this stage for us to just sell and think we can go for a title charge without having stability in our defensive line. We've just signed Leone, who's a young kid. Joe Gomez is in and out of the team due to his injury record. Konate and Van Dijk have formed a formidable partnership. Of course, Gay would be a welcome addition as well, but I feel like if you're going to sell Konate, you will have to sign another centre, which in total will be three centre backs in one window. So for me, that's not an option. And I know fans will be like, well, look, if he's not committed, if he's not willing to be at the club for the long term, why are we keeping him? Why not sell him right now so we can get some money and then maybe sign someone before the close of the window? I understand that point because I probably had that viewpoint early in the window where I said to myself that if he's showing zero indication that he wants to sign a new contract, then the best thing to do is sell him now so we can get the money and reinvest into the squad. But with the time, being so late in the window right now, I don't think it makes sense to do. I think it makes more sense to keep him on board for one more season. And if he decides to leave, so be it. It is what it is. If he decides to stay, I'll be over the moon about that. So for me, only time will tell in regards to his stance. I hope he does sign a new contract. I would rather keep him because I feel like he gives us that stability and gives us a stronger chance of winning silverware this season. If we were to sell him, I don't think we'll have adequate time to find the right replacements in the squad. So therefore, I'd rather take that hit where, even if we were to sell him, I don't think we'd get more than 40 million for him. So I'd rather take that hit because you'll be able to recoup that 40 million from winning, silverware or going further in competitions like the Champions League very, very quickly. So for me, yeah, keep him on board, make sure we've got a solid team throughout the season, and then look, whatever happens, next year in terms of next summer, we'll just have to wait and see. But I feel like we need to try and keep him on board. It's too late to sell him right now. And yeah, hopefully he does stay, and hopefully he does sign the new contract because I do rate Konate very highly. I think he's one of the best centre backs in Europe. So for me, he has to say he would be a long term defender in our team, and I feel like he's already becoming a leader to his own way in some extent as well. So for me, he needs to stay. Hopefully, I'm praying that he does sign a new contract very very soon. So only time will tell, but we will see what happens. That is the final rumor. Just got a couple comments there before we close the show. AR said, big up Ozzy and chat. Big up yourself, AR. Hope you're well. He said, we need to bring Isak and Guehi. Yes, we certainly need to bring both players. I definitely agree with that. So I think hopefully Liverpool can get that over the line before the end of the window. We've only got how many days? The 19th today. We've got about 12 days, less than 2 weeks. So we really need to get out together. I think we'll get both players over the line. In terms of the third attacker, I'm not too sure. It will depend who the profile is. I think the priority needs to be Isak and Marc Guehi. That's the two priorities, and then we'll see what happens after that. Double D, big up Double D. He says free Isak indeed. He's revealed his stance right now. He's come out with a statement and he's pretty much slammed the door on Newcastle. So it looks like he's ready for his new challenge or new chapter of his football career. And looks like Liverpool will be his next destination. So yeah, fingers crossed we can get that deal over the line very, very soon. And yeah, I'm confident we will. So only time will tell. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to AR and Double D. Actually, AR just sent one more comment. So let me read it out. He says, AR says, additional winger and CDM. I would love for that to happen, but I don't think it will. It's too late in the window, in my opinion, unless, they've been doing some serious work in the background. The additional winger, I think there's a slim chance of that happening. The DM, I doubt it. I think a DM would make perfect sense because we can see, we miss groundwork when he's not around. So with not having a defensive minded midfielder in our midfield, we do lack that sort of protection for the back line. Even though we have Endo, but I don't think Slot has complete faith in Endo to playing for a run of games. And I also personally, I think Endo has some limitations in terms of his ball playing ability. But he would provide that balance, so he's still an option for us. We still have Bashtic in the squad, but God knows, what his situation is. I think he's not not fully fit. He's not going to be available for any, in the near future. McConnell, not sure if he's remaining or if he's going out on loan. If he stays, then he's definitely an option. But I don't know if he's quite ready to be playing consecutive games going forward. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But in terms of the two profiles, 100%. Those two additions would complete our squad right now uh, to the T. But I don't think we'll make so many moves in the space of 12 days. I just don't see it happening, unfortunately. AR says offload Simicast and Elliot. Yep, Simicast looks like he's off, possibly to Nottingham Forest. And in terms of Elliot, still not sure of his destination. I would have thought it would have been Tottenham, but it looks like they are swiftly trying to get a deal done for Eze from Crystal Palace. And now Crystal Palace have actually been linked with Elliot. So maybe a move to the South London side is on the cards, or Elliot decides to pack his bags and move over to the Bundesliga with Red Bull Leipzig. Very interested in the player. But I think Leipzig are waiting for the Xavi Simon deal to happen. It's not concluded yet. So I think once that deal happens, maybe we'll get a bit of a development, because if it is the Bundesliga move, then I think Elliot will be announced very, very soon. So let's see what happens. But I don't think we'll be able to sign Isak, Guehi, and an additional winger and a CDM. That's something that we can dream, but I don't think it'll be a reality. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We have been surprised a lot in this window, so hopefully there are some more pleasant surprises before the window closes. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming show, I will be doing another show tomorrow. It will be a transfer show like always. Hopefully, we'll get some further news on Isak, maybe some development on Marc Guehi, who knows. And then on Thursday, we'll be doing a match preview of Newcastle versus Liverpool. Now, that game already had intensity written all over it, but now I think it's going to happen even more so. It's going to be a very, very firing encounter. So let's see, what happens. Hopefully, everyone's safe and sound, because Newcastle are known to be very physical, so they might want to try and hurt one or two of our players. But I'm sure Liverpool can, look after themselves and get one over the line and get the win to keep the Newcastle faithful quiet in the Monday night fixture. So yeah, let's see what happens. Just got one more comment here from Chibuke. Big up yourself. He says, I think they will sign only Isak and Guehi. And if that's the case, I don't mind that. I'll be very pleased with Isak and Marc Guehi as our last two signings. I'd be very pleased with that. So no, I'm all good with that if that is the case. AR says tackle will be flying everywhere. It will be. It's going to be a crazy affair. Obviously we'll be watching on TV, but I'm sure it's going to be very, very hostile. Like, can you imagine if we actually get a deal agreed with Isak before that fixture? Yeah, they're gonna have to have a lot of security on that day, that's for sure. And Isak should be nowhere near the stadium. And I might even tell Richard Hughes to, take a back seat and chill in Liverpool. No need for him to attend that fixture, because you don't need that heat in that moment. So yeah, it's going to be a crazy, crazy affair. But yeah, it should be fun. Yeah, so Rival fans will be watching this game, Liverpool versus Newcastle. Oh, of course, everyone's going to be watching this game, not just rival fans. I'm looking forward to that fixture. If you guys are free, feel free to join me on a watch along. Because I know for a fact it's going to be a crazy game. So I know when witness those type of games, I get riled up, I get emotional. So you'll be seeing me in a different sort of stance when it comes to that match, because I know it's going to be all fight, uh, punches thrown, elbows thrown, all sorts is going to happen. So it's going to be a crazy, crazy game. But still looking forward to it. Chibuki says, between Verts, Muslim, and Kasta Garbeck, who do you think will be our midfield three against Newcastle? I won't speak too much about this, because obviously I have a match preview lined up on Thursday. It will depend on McAllister's situation, because I don't know if he's fully fit. So Bosley, you'd expect him to be involved because of his energy levels. And then in terms of Gravenberch, yeah, we've missed him. So I expect him to be starting in this game. So yeah, more sort of details on the match preview this Thursday. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all tomorrow evening. Goodbye.